When it comes to choosing art supplies, it can be really a bit of an unknown. So if you've ever gone along to a workshop with somebody, they always will give you their list of what to bring along to the workshop. So typically it might be what size paintbrush, what type of paintbrush, what size canvas you might work on, what type of paper, brands, what particular colours to use, and they're really prescriptive. Brilliant if you don't know where to start. But artists do that, or people give you their list because if you want their result, this is how they did it, and so you want their result, this is how they did it, and they give you exactly the materials that they're using. However, just because they work for that person doesn't mean they're going to work for you. It's not uncommon to go to a workshop and find that those materials don't work for you, and it's because you're not working in line with things that you like, which is pretty obvious. So if you really dislike a colour, then you're going to potentially struggle to paint with it. If you really dislike the feel of a material, potentially you're going to struggle to draw with it or paint with it. So what I thought I'd just quickly demonstrate and show you some materials and things that I ask myself when like things to ask yourself when you're painting with them or drawing with them or using them. So I won't necessarily do it, but let's talk about it. One is big paintbrushes or small paintbrushes, or you might be a really small paintbrush kind of person. Okay, so you can see there compared to my hand, they're like different scales. Big paintbrushes are great for big areas, and if you don't like fine detail, that's fantastic. If you have a smaller space, maybe a medium-sized paintbrush, that's a 10, sometimes there's a 20, that's not too bad. I don't even know, 2-inch, it does have a scale, but that's gigantic. I rarely use that, other than just doing my canvases. All these little paintbrushes here, that's a 0, and there's even smaller again. That's really good for fine detail and small mark making. I share this with you because if you were to give me that in a workshop, or if I were, no, let's rephrase, if I were to give the wrong student that size paintbrush only, it won't necessarily do what they want because it won't give them fine detail. And that can be really annoying. Equally, if I give a student only this size brush, hold against my paper, only that size brush, which is little, that's not going to work for somebody who is not interested in detail, they're interested in big expressive marks. I'm sharing that with you because it's important to find out who you are. You might not know, so then buy a packet with a few different options and just begin to paint and see what feels right for you. It takes time, but paintbrushes. Yeah, that's my first thought on that. When you go to buy paint, let me grab my paint. One option is to buy the 3 primary colours. Oops, okay, 3 primary colours. Now, theoretically, the 3 primary colours mix to make every colour. Excellent. Each primary colour has a cool and a warm version. So there's that yellow that looks like, I don't know, sunflower yellow. There's another yellow that looks like egg yolk yellow. That looks like a fire engine red. There's one that looks like cool red, like it's like a colour I'd wear, or lipstick red, or some people wear that colour lipstick. Anyway, red robin red, like if you know the red robin hedge, but it's a different colour red. It's almost, okay, it's just different. And then there's blue, so that's like an ultra, well it's not ultramarine, it's cobalt, but there's two different colour blues as well. So warm and cool of each colour, which we'll go into a different point because it's a bit complex and yet simple once you get it. But theoretically you can mix all of these colours together. So that's good if you know enough information and you don't mind mixing colour. But some people are intuitive painters and they prefer just to pick up the colour that they want to use and paint with it. So there's a nice colour. It's not a primary colour, it's a colour I use a lot. They call it Gumtree Green. Like that's the colour I like, and I don't ever mix it. I just buy it in the tub. And there's here's another colour that I like, green grey. Okay, I won't ever mix it, but I can buy it in a tube. Fun fact though, if I wanted to mix it, they are the pigment colours on there. So everything always tells you the pigment colours, well not all of them, but on the artist quality they will. So some people like that. And buying colours pre-mixed to colours that you like, there's another one. None of them are primary colours. You've got to mix every one of them. Buying them in the tub or tube is good when you're more like an intuitive painter and you don't want to waste your time mixing the colour, but these are the types of colours you need to buy that, and then you can mix from there, of course. The next fun fact is on colour that every person has their own colour palette. So I found this really interesting when I was at uni and I was with lots of artists, and I would discover by watching and going to the shops with them what colours we would pick up and what colours we wouldn't. So there are colours that I will always buy and I will always have, and there are colours that are random that I won't really buy and I won't really use, and yet others will do great work with it. So each of you have the colours that you like to use. They could be pastel colours, they could be bright colours, they could be warm colours, they could be cool colours, they could be secondary colours, they could be primaries, they could be earthy tones, they could be neutrals. There's all of these considerations which can be limiting if these are the only three colours that you have, because each of them might they might just not fit well with you. They could be a bit jerky. So that is just a thought. Definitely one option to mix every colour from that. The more fun way is to go to the shelf and just buy yourself all the colours that you find pretty. It's a bit far to reach. Here's another colour that I find pretty, and pull them off the shelf along with your primaries. If you do that, it is good to have just a mix of something yellow, something in the bluey tone, something in the reddy tones, and something white or cream that you can make things lighter. I think I've got in one video somewhere that I have used that to be my lightening agent rather than using white paint, because white would make it go a bit more pastel-y and I wanted to keep it more neutral. Anyway, that's just some tips on ways of buying paint that suits your style. Paint is expensive, so Joe, maybe I can't find all of my tubes that I want, but one is Joe Sonia's. They're pretty well priced, they're great. One brand is Atelier, they're an Australian brand, they're really good, they're an artist quality. That's a student quality, so it means that that has more pigment, more binders in it. It has things that fill out the space rather than pure pigment. When you start going to an artist quality like Atelier or Matisse or Golden, they have more pigment, so you don't actually need as much paint. But you pay a lot more money for them. The brand I use with my students is Chromacryl. It is fantastic. Used to be able to buy it at newsagents, but the cheap stuff that you get, this big container for $2, it's really only good for little kids. Or I've seen Aldi have bottles this big, and they have colours, and people go, gee, that's so cheap, it's great. And I go, it's really cheap. Is it really good? I don't know. Anyway, just buy the colours that you like, is my thought. The next thing is when it comes to drawing, piece of paper, just put something behind it. Okay. So some people, if I start with a pen, this will make sense a bit more. Okay. When we adults buy pens, everybody has their favourite. Some prefer brand, some prefer ballpoint, some prefer an inky tip, and it's all to do with the way it feels when you draw with it. Because some feel inky, some feel scratchy, and so you'll always go to the shop and you'll always buy that particular brand because you like the way that feels. So if we apply the same thing to supplies, pencil, brilliant. It's always got this scratchy feel, which, to be honest, most people are happy with a pencil to some degree because they're used to it. But then we can upgrade you to this is just a Micron pen. And some people like this because of the fine line. Okay, and this is an artist quality pen. Some people like the feel just of a regular biro. Okay, so it's a feel thing. The next thing to consider is, this is an oil pastel. Whoops, we won't use that colour because I dropped it. Won't be able to see it, but it's an oil pastel. And they feel like lipstick. Okay, so if you like smooth things, you can use it on its side or straight on. It's smooth, but you can't really move it. Like if you put your finger on there, it won't really move. Some people like just a pastel or a chalk pastel. Okay, and as you do it, you can layer colours over colours. And it's chalky, and then you can move it with your finger. Okay, and some people really love the feel and the fact that you can get in there with your fingers. Some people like charcoal is great. You can do a lot of fun things with charcoal, but use it on its side, use it straight on. Same thing is that your fingers are going to get dirty, and for some people that's really bad, and for other people that's fine. And then my next thought is that there are students who just like to work in markers. So Copic markers are really in vogue. No one ever tells you though that because they're alcohol markers, they're no good for artwork that will ever see the sun, because the alcohol makes the pigment like it's an inferior product, and you're adding alcohol, so it's going to be destroyed by sunlight over time, and no one ever tells you that. But other things you can use is just general markers. This is a Letraset. They never really took off. But the feel of markers and the sound of that, some people really love. And then finally, consider what surface you're working on, because this is a bit of timber, but depending on what you're working on, you get the marks from underneath, and that can be annoying.